aging is no excuse for sitting down. You can still go on having ideas and undertake projects. And in your little invitation, you will have realized that I've got another plan in mind. One of my very good friends said to me, who's here, said, "That's a very interesting concept you've got. I think everybody would like to know what you want to do with the money that you hope will all contribute. So you're going to hear a story." It's 1975, and I'm in Israel at an international congress to which I've taken a group of Australians. And because we lost the bid to hold the 1978 Congress in Australia, the Israelis, whom we'd done a favor, that's another story, said, so far the International Congress has only been held in Americas or Europe. We're going to Japan in 1978. Why don't we come to Australia prior to going to Japan? Would you like to hold a Congress prior to the Japanese one in Australia? And we conferred, my president and I, because I was secretary of the association, and said, well, we could explore the possibilities. Sounds interesting. So we come back to Australia, and the local committee decides, since I'm the secretary, I'd better go to Japan and find out whether the Japanese can do this with us. So in December 75, I fly to Japan. Now, I've always signed my letters R.J. Inall. Why not? So imagine the shock and horror on the face of the Japanese gentleman who was secretary of his association as I'm coming down the steps of the plane in Tokyo, and R.J. Inall turns out to be female and not male. What do you do with a female? The welcoming ceremony has to be changed immediately. We can't have it in a big public place like a hotel, private dining room somewhere where companies meet. So that evening, I'm welcomed in a boardroom by 16 elderly Japanese gentlemen, and I discovered to my horror that nobody speaks English and I have no Japanese. But the room is covered with blackboards like any company meeting room is. And I decided that the only way, knowing that the Japanese could read English, even if they couldn't speak it, I would write on the blackboard, "Thank you for welcoming me, this is wonderful of you." And in turn, a Japanese gets up and writes on the board, so we communicate on the blackboard. But I'm given a piece of paper at the end of the evening that tells me how to get to Tokyo University the next day for our planning committee meeting. And I can give that to the taxi driver who knows how to take me. Well, of course, I wondered that night, how on earth are we going to have a planning committee meeting with me no Japanese and they no English. But I arrive at the meeting room the next day, and I'm greeted by the guy who was sitting opposite me at dinner in beautiful English. And we have a very successful working day, at the end of which she's asked to show me Tokyo. This is my first visit there. So as we walked to the car, I said, Dr. Orimo, why on earth did you let me perform last night this way when you have beautiful English? And he said, Mrs. Inall, do you want to get to know Japan or not? And I said, yes, of course I do. And he said, well, in that case, you might have noticed that everybody was very much older than we were. And if we had spoken in English, they would have lost so much face, they couldn't possibly bear it. Oh, and that was my first lesson on how to deal with a society of which I knew nothing. But in the following 3 years of planning until 78, I got my lessons in a very interesting fashion. Whenever I went to Tokyo for our planning meetings, well, I was taken to a geisha house to be shown how elderly men entertained themselves. I might say that my geisha didn't have a clue what to do with me. But I did learn about elderly Japanese males. I was taken to a dinner, a family dinner, in a special Japanese restaurant. I was taken to the tea ceremony in his home, where his wife gave me the cup that I'd been using during the ceremony. I was taken to Japanese meetings, and gradually we became to trust each other, and I think we became friends, not just colleagues. So that when we met in 1978 at the International Congress in Japan, the International Council decided, yes, we would have a new region, America, Europe, and Asia-Oceania. Admittedly, Asia-Oceania was only 2 countries, 2 associations, with a brief to develop a region with associations and a knowledge of aging on a multidisciplinary way throughout our part of the world. And Dr. Orimo and I got together and we said, how are we going to do this? And we met, 5 of us, 3 Japanese, 2 Australians, my president, Dick Gibson, and myself, and Dr. Orimo and 2 other Japanese. And we formed the region on the proviso that, unlike the International Association, which went from country to country with its assets, and we said, no, the assets aren't going to wander around Australia, around our region. They're going to stay in Australia on one condition. As we formed each association, it would get an audited balance sheet to show where its assets were being held, and the administration would stay in Australia. Mark, where are you? Without Mark, I couldn't have done it, because Mark audited the balance sheets every year so that the association grew. Singapore first, Thailand next, India, South Korea, China. We now have 16 associations of gerontology in our region. And the fact that I was accepted without problems each time I got a briefing from now Professor Orimo, so that the Asian men professionals that I had to deal with, There was no question of female or male. I was the regional secretary and treated as such. If that was a success, it was due to the very unusual friendship between a Japanese man and an Australian woman. And nobody even thought it was strange that this worked because the two of us worked. And so what I thought, he's been much in my mind. We kept in touch all these years. And when the international body wanted to honor me in South Korea in 2013, Professor Orimo came from Japan to be part of it. We kept in touch every year until last Christmas. And he's been much in my mind. And when the family insisted that I have and celebrate 100 years, I thought it would be wonderful to have an award that the international, that our region gave every 4 years to somebody from a country other than the one where the Congress was going to be held, to learn something about another society and how it opened, the way Professor Orimo taught me about Asia. And I wanted them to be in the name of Inall and Orimo. And I'm very pleased that in my preliminary discussions, Karen, where are you?
Right here.
The Association of Gerontology has agreed to administer the fund when it eventually comes together. So there you are. You can still do things when you're 100, so do it. Thank you all.
Okay, with a brief interlude while the musicians get set